officials in the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. My name is Suzanne Ackley-Perot. I'm the mother of an 18-year-old boy with autism and severe behavioral needs. The CDC estimates that 1 in every 110 children have some form of autism spectrum disorder. My son Connor is one of those children. From the time he was 5 until he entered a group home when he was 13, he had been hospitalized at least 6 times for psychiatric admissions. As strange as it may seem, he is one of the lucky ones. He was not only able to get help some of the times when he was in crisis, but we were lucky enough to get him into a group home for children with developmental disabilities and severe behaviors that was near our home. It is one of the few programs of its kind in New York State. For him, this has made all the difference. But even with that, his future is still very uncertain. It has given him a chance to learn skills and how to get a handle on his impulsivity and behavior. Many children with autism and other developmental disabilities who find themselves in crisis end up like we did at the local Comprehensive Psychiatric Emergency Program, or CPEP. Unfortunately, most of the time, as soon as the child has calmed down, he is sent back home, even if there is a repeated pattern and the crisis is not resolved. This can often lead to a child going into and being released from CPEP multiple times in a short time frame. We were there with our son 4 times in as many weeks earlier this year. When you are faced with a child who is a danger to themselves and those around them, there are not many other choices. The few hospitals which have inpatient psychiatric units frequently will not offer admission if the child also has a developmental disability. And as sad as it is, there is only one facility in the Northeast that has a unit dedicated to children with developmental disabilities and severe behavior or mental health issues. For the few families that can access this, it may mean traveling to a different state away from family, friends in order to get care for their child. There is a shortage of child psychiatrists, and in the Syracuse area alone, there is month-long wait lists for outpatient services and many clinics that aren't even taking new referrals. Imagine if you lived in a rural area where if you could get a spot, you'd be driving hours to get there. Without consistent psychiatric care, those children with severe behavior needs or coexisting mental health conditions frequently find themselves in crisis. For those children who cannot be kept at home, trying to get into one of the few group homes for children is seen as the only option. Even if that level of care out of home is not needed or able to be accessed while it's still a child, those severe behavior needs may interfere with the person being able to live independently as an adult. A recent OPWDD resource guide on making homes that work estimated the costs of out-of-home care for a person with behavioral needs at upwards to $180,000 a year, with the cost of a group home being around $128,000, compared with around $7,000 for an average for services if a person can be maintained at home. With appropriate behavioral and psychiatric supports, more children and adults will be able to live at home with their families or in more independent settings. I urge Commissioner Burke and other decision makers at OPWDD to seriously look at creating more programs to support the behavioral needs of children and adults with developmental disabilities. The recent intensive behavioral services pilot program needs to be revamped and offered to those families that need it. Cooperative planning between OPWDD and the Office of Mental Health may result in more beds dedicated to children with developmental disabilities in psychiatric facilities and more outpatient programs to address their needs. Programs such as behavioral-based community rehabilitation and applied behavioral analysis may prevent the need for hospitalizations by helping families and children cope with those challenging behaviors. Money spent on those programs, for children will mean a greater future for them, but more importantly, it means they'll have a choice to be able to live independently and be able to make the same decisions as our children without developmental disabilities. I am free for any input or help. Thank you very much.